Hi, this is John Wren. Uh, this is our Christmas Day show on Christmas Eve Day. We're a day ahead of time is one way to look at it. The time has changed, but hope you find this helpful today. If you're starting something new, this is the startup show. Normally we're doing this live at 10 a.m. each Friday morning. We're a little ahead of schedule. We'll post links, probably mostly be watched by recording this week. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, call me Monday morning anytime. We'll get a date on the calendar when we can have you on to share your startup experience. If you're starting a new career, starting a new direction with your work, starting a new career, a new project or campaign, or a new business, we hope that you find this helpful. Sponsored by the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc., we cooperate with local chambers to try to help members do more good work. To join, all you have to do is go to our Facebook page, introduce yourself, like the page, and then share it with your Facebook friends. And we're going to be opening new meetings across the country this next year. At least that's the plan. So my name is John Wren. This is the Startup Show. And today we're going to be talking about starting a new campaign, whether it's a campaign for office for yourself or whether you want to help other good people get elected. There's a powerful tool in Colorado that other states are considering. Kentucky, Washington State, others are thinking about shifting from a presidential primary to the wonderful neighborhood caucus system that we've had here in Colorado since 1912. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience with it, where it's at now here in Colorado, and how you can take advantage of it for yourself or someone else that you know well that you think would make a good elected public servant. Maybe you'll forward a copy of today's show to them, and then sit down and have a cup of coffee with them and see how you could work together to try to change things. I think a lot of people are frustrated with our political system today. And there is a tool in place in Colorado that has the potential of radically changing things. Unfortunately, we've had people in charge of the system who are trying to kill the system. And not all of them. There are a lot of really good leaders in both political parties. I'm unaffiliated right now. I've been a Republican. I've been a Democrat. There are really good people in both parties. And both political parties make wonderful megaphones, but I think they're terrible as far as being a tool for a totalitarian regime where it's top-down dictatorship. And people of the grassroots are what makes the difference. My own personal feeling is it really doesn't matter who's president in this country if we have healthy grassroots, and we don't have healthy grassroots right now, systematically being killed off by people who would like to have their point of view prevail. Powerful people who consistently try to kill the caucus here in Colorado. They've managed to do it across the country. We're one of the few states left with a really wonderful system that was part of the Teddy Roosevelt progressive reforms, along with initiative, referendum, recall. The caucus system reformed the Tammany Hall type politics. If you saw the Gangs of New York, you got a good example of what political parties were like at their worst. That was what was feared by the founders. They would have assumed just as soon had no political party, but they saw if there wasn't organized opposition that the party that Alexander Hamilton had started would win every election. So an opposition party was formed, and it served us well for over 200 years. There are people that think that if we go to a multi-party system that it would be an improvement, but if you just look at Europe, you can see that that's just not true. So I don't believe the system's the problem, but people utilizing the system is a problem. And so I'm going to try to encourage you today to take full advantage of the system here in Colorado, to maybe watch carefully what happens in caucus states this year, and then maybe try to get your state to adopt a similar system. I don't think every state needs to be a caucus system. If the primary definitely is more efficient, especially if they'd have the presidential primary all on one day. And there's a Why Iowa is a book that's looked carefully at the way we choose presidential candidates, and they make the suggestion that we have a day for the caucuses and then a bit later a day for the primaries nationwide, that we shorten the campaign season. There's some things like that could make things even better. But today, who I'm really talking to is the person in Colorado, or maybe you know someone in Colorado you can forward this along to, and you'd really like to try to make a difference. Politics in general is a seasonal sport. You know, not all the time is a good time to be running for political office. Although sometimes campaigns have been run by people in very difficult personal situations because they saw that there was just a real need. But what we have a real need for right now are people that will go in and be open-minded and work with both political parties once they're elected, and to be able to solve some of these problems that we're facing. I'm a believer in representative government, and the strongest representatives I've seen from personal experience come from this precinct caucus system that we have in Colorado. Every 2 years, neighbors gather and select representatives to go to nominating assemblies and conventions for political candidates and party leadership positions. And if you have a strong neighborhood, you can have a strong caucus. So one of the first steps in making the caucus stronger is to strengthen neighborhoods. The cocooning and isolation that's been going on in this country is really making it more difficult to get good caucus participation. If you know your neighbors and you've gotten together with them regularly, then the caucus just goes much better. The best caucus I've ever participated in was in a neighborhood that for years had done an alarm clock party. And the alarm clock party had one particular individual, Leonard Rowe, that was sort of its guardian. And every month, Leonard would be there figuring out whose house was next. They call it an alarm clock party because after 1 hour, the alarm would go off. Everyone had to leave. And if they didn't limit it to 1 hour, they found that it lingered on and on and on. And people would not be as willing to come the next month. But neighbors came together every month. You couldn't go every time, of course, but for the most part, most of the neighbors went most of the months, and it was really a fun thing. So when you went to your caucus, you already knew the people. And also the political party in Arapahoe County was much stronger then than what I've seen in more recent years, and in different counties. Maybe it's still strong in Arapahoe. I don't know for sure. You might know if you've gone to Arapahoe County caucus and had a good experience. You might tell us about it, and you could post it as a comment here. You could go to our Facebook page, Colorado Caucus News, or the site that we developed, cocaucus.org, where we're trying, and this is really a personal effort of mine. I'm trying to help educate more people about the system so that we can have a better caucus this year, because if that doesn't happen, this may be the last year. This building a better quite back on an even keel. And here comes a presidential primary. It was suggested last spring, and I went down to the Capitol and did what I could, and it was just enough. Sometimes you have to trust that the little that you can do with God's help is enough, and that's kind of what happened last spring. But it's for sure going to come roaring back, and that's one reason that we're promoting a pass along video. It was the trailer here. You might have seen it before you came to the show, or you can see it afterwards, but the trailer is on Colorado Caucus News. Are produced it. And, it's just trying to get people to register and to affiliate before the January 4th deadline. Now, I've seen some promotion about that come out. You know, you do see election cycles where there's not one word said about it, but if nothing else, maybe this little video we did will precipitate some of the newspapers and radio stations, the TV stations, the media across the state, helping people realize that if you're not registered by January 4th, you're not going to be able to participate in the caucus. And you're not going to have much of a voice in the caucus if you don't participate in the political party that you affiliate. Enough, you need to do, at least call your county headquarters and say, could I do the precinct? But if we could have a revival of the precinct caucuses, which could easily happen next March 1st, if we get an infusion of new people into the system, if media becomes inspired to explain the system, to not just criticize it, but show the strengths of it. It's sort of like the coral reef in the ocean. You know, the coral reef is where the little minnows are first living before they grow and then swim out into the ocean. And the caucus is sort of a coral. It just really makes local government much stronger, and I think it changes the way that people think about presidential candidates. Part of the reason that the presidential campaign has turned into this expensive, long, drawn-out process is because politics has become a process of passers to go out and just get signatures of people who don't know what they're doing. You get enough petition passers, you can get pretty much anything onto the ballot, and then buying ads that manipulate the public and stampede them into one issue or another issue. I call it sort of legislation by sledgehammer. So you put it on the ballot, get people to vote for it, and you don't have to talk to the voters. So now that's how a lot of representatives are getting elected. It's led to this negative campaigning. In the short run, negative campaigning, yes, can win elections, but it is demoralizing people. When everyone's a scoundrel, you know, instead of talking about ideas and ways to improve things, we become critical and just tear down the other side instead of building up yourself. Well, what's causing that is this move away from the representative process that our Colorado caucus system is the full flowering of, I believe. I think it's in the back of the mind of the founding fathers. They had this sort of a system in mind where neighbors would come together with like-minded neighbors and select representatives to go to nominating assemblies and not take the shortcuts of negative campaigning, of character assassination, and you get thoughtful people drawn back into the system. There are a lot of good people that just won't touch politics right now, and maybe rightfully so. It may not be the time when they can devote themselves to political office. But for a lot of people, they just stay away for not very good reasons. And you may know someone right now in your mind that you're thinking, yeah, he or she would be a terrific representative, but I can understand they're discouraged. Well, help them, encourage them, maybe forward this along to them, follow up with a phone call, get together for a cup of coffee. Learned about this system from Lyle Lendesmith, who was my neighbor. I was fresh out of graduate school. I'd done a little bit of politicking on the college campus, and it got interesting, and I showed up for the first precinct committee meeting I'd ever gone to and got elected as precinct committee person. And was going door to door, knocking on doors, trying to pass out literature and do what I could to organize the precincts to start with. We had block workers nearly every block, so usually I had someone to go with. But there were a few where there was not a block worker, and one way or another, I came across the door of Lyle Lendesmith. And Lyle had been executive director of the Republican Party in Colorado when he and Gene Toole had developed John Love as a candidate who became Governor John Love. And John Love had been a little bit involved with the Republican Party in El Paso County, was really not well known at all. And they were able to work with political leaders across the state and get him elected. And he served Colorado well. And that's the kind of leadership that some now. But Lyle and Gene went out and looked for a good candidate. And you may want to do that too. Go out and find someone that maybe hasn't had the dream of serving, but with a little bit of help would be willing. And and it may be you. Maybe you're inspired to run for political office. But what I've learned from my own experience, need for the right opportunity. And this idea that you're going to set your sights on some seat, no matter who's currently in it, is just a little bit crazy. But if there's a representative that you legitimately feel like you could do a better job than he or she is right now, why not run? You know, a very large institution that tries to do good brought together its members and told them how to write letters to their legislators after the election. What a waste of time that is. You know, the time to affect legislators is before the election. That's this current legislative session coming up here in Colorado. You can connect with your legislators now before that 2016 election next November, and they'll listen to you, especially if you are in their political party and you're helping get it even more organized, or especially maybe even more so if you're in the opposition party and they see that you're organizing and getting ready to seriously oppose them, even though maybe it's a gerrymandered district, but you see that they just aren't doing a good job. So don't just set a personal goal of serving in political office and then bash your way in. You have to look for the right opportunity. And it may not be you running, but it could be you helping other good people get elected. No one can get elected on their own. It's like a turtle on a fence post. Anyone in elected public office is like a turtle on a fence post. You know it did not get there on its own. Somebody had to help it up to the top of the fence post. And elected representatives that serve their local constituents better job. The caucus system that we have here in Colorado ties the representative to their district that they're representing in a way that just doesn't happen. When we were fighting an effort to kill the caucus back in 2000, somebody came by and looked at our literature and said, "Oh yeah, I'm from California, I'll support you on this." He said, "You know, you people here in Colorado don't realize what a terrific system you have." He said, "I'm from California, and back there, local candidates just pay petition passers and get on the ballot and run ads, and you never shake hands with a local representative." Is not the way it is here in Colorado because of the caucus system. And a lot of people who are legislators now who oppose the system are opposing it because it worked great for them to get into office, but they want to protect themselves from the possibility of being voted out. It is much easier for the average ordinary person to get on the ballot with the caucus system than it is with the petition system. Now, the petitions is a fine option if the party is out of kilter and not being helpful, and if you aren't getting cooperation, you know, you can always petition on to the primary ballot or election ballot. It doesn't take all that many signatures to leave and I think those are good options as sort of safety valves. But the best chance the average ordinary person has of serving in elected public office is to become active in your local precinct caucus. How do you find it? You can Google it, just the name of Republicans, Democrats, and your zip code. Of course, tell them what you want to do, where you live. There's lots of help online, but there's no substitute for getting together face to face. I would suggest you find out who your precinct committee people are and go see them. Don't call them, just go over to their house. They're not that far away. It's a good walk over, knock on their door, introduce yourself, and ask how you can help. Now, there's a deadline coming up. It's January 4th is the deadline to affiliate with a particular political party to be able to participate in the caucus in March 1st. Now, some people get upset at this. I think we could do a much better job of letting people know about the January 4th deadline, and they'd be less upset. But people, they seem to think, and this is proposed by some of these so-called reform movements, is that you have, just go to whatever caucus you want. You're a member of the party if you just show up and say you're a member. Well, that kind of misses the point of a political party. The actual, if we're just going to vote and watch advertisements, that kind of thinking makes a certain amount of sense. But it does not create a good representative system to do it that way. Thomas Edison's first invention was a vote counting machine, and he took it to Washington, D.C. and tried to sell it to the legislators. And he showed them how much faster their votes could get recorded with this machine. And the legislators said, no, we're not interested in that, because it's while they're counting the votes, it's while we talk to each other and we think, and it's an important time. And, this caucus process is a little bit the same way. Yes, there's more efficient, more speedy ways to just get somebody elected and put in office, but to build a representative system where you have representatives who understand and know their constituents and represent their point of view, it takes a little bit more time. Now, if you've never, ever participated, I would suggest you just show up at your first one. Somebody once said 80% of success, 80% of success in life is just showing up. And that's really true of the caucus. If you just show up and you're at your first one, now there may be an opportunity to serve as a representative to one of the nominating assemblies, or as precinct committee people, or as block workers. And between now and the caucus in March, you could maybe have been helping. But for sure, if you show up at the caucus itself, they'll be asking for people to do various jobs. One job to avoid, if you really want to be active in your political party, is working for the Election Commission. They have now really pushed the parties to provide election judges who are paid, and you become then the servant of the people putting on the election and not of your political party. And that's another topic. But for today, learn all you can about the caucus. Take a look at this little Facebook page we have, Colorado Caucus News. Take a look at the site cocaucus.org. Look at the Secretary of State's site. Both political parties have websites. There's really no shortage of information. And if you take a maybe a couple of hours, Christmas afternoon, Sunday afternoon, sometime between now and January 4th, and look at that information, you'll see how you can probably get affiliated right online. Now, some people say both parties are bad, and you know what, that's true. The only thing that's worse, though, is not participating at all, because if these political parties go away, it is going to become just the rich and the powerful who are able to serve in elected public office. A political party is a boon to the person who has limited resources to invest. If you're Donald Trump, you could care less about the Republican Party. He can buy his way onto media and become well known without the help of a political party. But the average ordinary person with limited means can't do that. So if you want to just abandon the system to the powerful, then don't show up for your caucus, because that's exactly what's going to happen. But if you'd like to see the average ordinary citizen have a chance to serve in elected public office, show up and support your caucus. It's not enough to just vote. A lot of people say, well, I vote. Read the newspaper, vote, be informed, be an informed voter, but go to your caucus at least for 2 or 3 election cycles. It is a relay race. Some people say, well, we can't all go to the caucus, and that's true. It's more like the jury in a trial than anything else. It's not Now, you still have the primary election. You're nominating to the primary ballot for local elections. The presidential is a little bit different. And my own personal feeling is the way the Republicans are doing it this year is the way it ought to be done every year by both parties. Why force people to take a position on which presidential candidate until they get to the convention? You know, it used to be you would elect people and you just trusted their judgment. You elected good people, you knew them as your neighbor, you knew they'd do the right thing at the next level. And we've gotten away from that, and it's become highly politicized. We're spending way too much money and time on running for president, and that needs to be reformed. A strong caucus can help change that. So if you've got the time, maybe you're a new graduate, you've got some time as you just get started in the job, but you've got some free time, you can fill it just, you know, watching sports if you want, but you can make a difference if you'll show up at your caucus. Maybe you're recently retired or your kids have grown up and left home and you've got some time to fill. What a wonderful thing to do, to say, you know, for the next 2 or 3 election cycles, let's participate in our local neighborhood. And then, you know, it's a nurse told me one time that when a new procedure comes, nurses are taught to first watch the new procedure, then do the new procedure, then teach the new procedure, and then you really know it. And I think the caucus is a lot the same way. If you'll just show up and watch and observe, and then the next year come and fully participate, maybe you're the precinct committee person, maybe you're the block worker, maybe you're the candidate, but you fully participate, and then you train others in how the system works. That's the part that's been forgotten. We stopped training the newcomers. And, you know, sometimes when we try to do a better job of things, it becomes much worse. There are workshops on campaigning, but most of them, what they're doing really is promoting being a candidate and running for office and not looking at how to strengthen your own political party. I've seen that problem in both parties. I've been a Republican, I've been a Democrat. To me, it doesn't matter which party you join. If you want to run for political office, it probably makes a lot of sense to join the majority party in your county. But a political party serves you well only if you use it as a megaphone. Anybody that just takes marching orders, I don't think does very well. But still in all, it's like if you go to the park and divide up into 2 sports teams and there's the skins and the shirts, you know, you've got to be a team player. But that's different than being some sort of a droid that just takes marching orders. And that's not at all what I'm trying to encourage you to do. Use it as a megaphone. Express yourself, your own point of view, and patiently in a loving way. You know, if it needs to be faith-based, you have to have, and everyone has faith in something. And if this is an expression of your personal faith, you know, not that you're going to pound your faith down the throats of other people, but, you know, my spiritual leader said, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, how do you love your neighbor if you don't even know who they are? And this is a big failing of mine. I don't know my neighbors well, but this system gives me an opportunity to connect with them and to meet with them. And maybe everything I'm saying to you is what I ought to be doing myself. Although I'm thinking I maybe am the one person in Colorado who really should be unaffiliated right now, because when I'm talking about the caucus system as a Republican, the Democrats tend to discount me and not believe me. When I'm a Democrat, and Republicans tend to do the same thing. So I'm unaffiliated, and I'll probably be staying unaffiliated for another election cycle. I'll let you know January 4th. If I do stay unaffiliated, I'm hoping to reach out to unaffiliated voters, and I'd like to have a unaffiliated voter in every precinct inside each precinct caucus, and will be an overnight reporting mechanism. And I'll talk with you more about that later, but I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. I'm going to talk to some people about it, and if we can get some support for developing that kind of thing, then that's probably what I'll do over the next year. Or I may just pick a party and say, you know, not many years left. I've done what I can to try to support the caucus. Now I just need to be participating along with everybody else. If someone else picks up the the torch, and you begin promoting the system we have here in Colorado, especially to Colorado newcomers. The League of Women Voters used to do a really great job of that, and they've gotten away from it because they're really into promoting certain issues. And it used to be they were just trying to help people learn how to become better citizens. I think the Secretary of State's office could start doing that, sort of a welcome wagon for political newcomers on how the system operates, not grinding one political axe or another, but just helping people learn how to be good citizens in Colorado. And surely there is somebody that could do a better job of this than I have been over the last few years with the little bit that I've been able to do. Well, this is the Christmas broadcast. It's going out early. I doubt if anybody's looking right now, but hopefully some people will see the recording of it. I may do just a little bit of editing to it. And if you'll take a look on Colorado Caucus News, our Facebook page, or cocaucus.org, then you can see what Jim Fraser has produced, which is really terrific. It's a very short, it's less than a minute long, but we talk about the 2 deadlines, and it's something that you could easily forward to a friend, and maybe with a link to this if they want to hear more about it. And then get together with them and talk and see what the 2 of you can do to make a difference. You know, it's a turtle on the fence post. No well-organized precinct has become that way just with the precinct committee people. They have a lot of help. So help them. You know, as somebody said to me that in business or in politics, you either need to lead, follow, or get out of the way. So lead in your neighborhood, follow your precinct leaders if they're already in place, try to be helpful to them, or get out of the way. Stop being the critic. We've got too many critics in this country, and it's demoralizing. This negative campaigning really needs to stop. Let's make it stop this year. Love your neighbor as yourself may become the winning strategy. And I hope you'll do your part. You know, the Christophers talked about lighting a candle, and that's all any of us do, is just try to light a candle and trust that the little bit that we do with God's help will be enough. But this life is very short, and that January 4th deadline is coming right up. So you and I get started. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll pass it along.